With the conclusion of the End and the Death, the Horus Heresy is finally winding down. But just because Horus is dead doesn't mean the war is over. In fact, things are about to get real messy. The Scouring is coming, and I am foaming at the mouth to see how it all plays out. Hey everyone, it's your favorite fallen cow back with another video. I just finished writing up the full ranking of all the candidate Space Marines we picked from the Horus Heresy. Yes, every single one of those chemically altered lunatics from Sigismund to Sevatar. And trust me, I really wanted to drop that video this week, but trying to finish that and cover one of the biggest announcements in 30k? Yeah, no. My brain said, cow, go lie down. So don't worry guys, the full Space Marine ranking is coming next week. Pinky swear. Because today, we're diving into the latest bombshell from Games Workshop. They've officially announced the start of the new Scouring series, with the upcoming book, Ashes of the Imperium. That's right, after years of vague side lore, scattered mentions, and enough Reddit theories to fill a black library vault, we're finally stepping into the era after the Siege of Terra. As someone who's fully obsessed with the Horus Heresy books, I've been dying to see this chapter explored. The Scouring is finally getting its moment, and I can't wait to watch the fallout unfold. In this video, I'll be covering a quick overview of what the Scouring actually is, what we currently know from the existing lore, the major plot lines we're likely to see unfold, and what I'm personally most excited and terrified for. Whether it's Dorn emotionally unraveling, Guilliman power walking through his grief, or some completely unhinged curveball the Black Library writers throw at us that rewrites everything we thought we knew. So grab your milk, say goodbye to the War Master, and get ready to dive into the war after the war, because the galaxy isn't done burning yet. So what was the Scouring? The Scouring was the brutal galaxy-wide campaign that followed the death of Horus Lupercal and the Siege of Terra. Despite the War Master's defeat, the war was far from over. The traitor legions, now fractured and scattered like a bad high school friend group, they had to be hunted down, purged, or driven into the Eye of Terror. The Emperor, before being entombed on the Golden Throne, had ordered that these rebels be erased from history. Their names, deeds, and even the worlds they touched were to be wiped clean. But the Scouring was far from an easy job. The Imperium faced chaos on all fronts. Traitor remnants, rebel worlds, and opportunistic Xenos who took one look at the post-Heresy Imperium and said, "It's free real estate." Loyalist forces fought to reclaim territory and root out chaos corruption across 1,000 worlds, often discovering just how deeply the heresy had sunk its claws in. At the center of all of it was Rabute Guilliman, who had emerged as the Imperium's de facto leader. Guilliman rallied the surviving legions, reorganized Imperial forces, and laid down massive reforms, breaking the legions into smaller chapters with the Codex Astartes and dividing the military into the Imperial Guard and the Imperial Navy to prevent another Horus-style rebellion. The Scouring lasted 7 long years and was one of the darkest, bloodiest chapters in the Imperium's history. It was the final reckoning of the heresy and the start of a grim new era, the Age of Rebirth, or more accurately, the Great Galactic Cleanup nobody was emotionally ready for. So what do we know about the Scouring? Not much, to be honest. Just like with the Horus Heresy, before the books really took off, the lore around the Scouring has been frustratingly sparse. We've known a few key points here and there, but that's about it. We know the Khan disappeared into the Webway during clashes with Dark Elder raiders, and that Guilliman is said to have dealt a fatal blow to Alpharius, or Omegon, though the fate of the twin Primarch remains a mystery. Guilliman himself was mortally wounded by Fulgrim during a fierce battle at Thessalia and placed into stasis. The destruction of Caliban also occurred during this time period and marked a pivotal moment, sparking the Dark Angels' relentless hunt for their fallen brethren. The Imperial Fist suffered a heavy loss in a brutal engagement known as the Iron Cage, while several worlds tied to traitor forces were subjected to exterminatus, wiped clean by Loyalist hands. Elsewhere, battles raged on multiple fronts, the Night Lords launched deadly ambushes, and the Dark Angels and Blood Angels pushed Chaos forces from critical sectors. Meanwhile, Vulcan and the Salamanders hunted down dangerous renegades, like Fabius Bile. All told, these fragments hint at a sprawling, brutal campaign that reshaped the Imperium, but the full story has remained hidden until now. Which brings me to the burning question on everyone's lips: will Papa Dorn smash Birdie's face in? Let's find out. Now that we've got the basics down, let's dive into the potential plotlines we can expect to see in the upcoming Scouring series. First up, we've got the Iron Cage, a major turning point in the Scouring. This siege on Sebestus IV saw the Imperial Fists get absolutely battered as they tried to bring Perturabo and the Iron Warriors to heel. But this wasn't just another meat grinder. This might be the moment we finally see Perturabo ascend to demonhood. And let's be real, if this storyline delivers a Dorn vs Purdy Primarch duel, it's over, guys. Literally over. I will die happy. I really hope Dorn beats the shit out of him. That's a biased cow right there. Next, we move on to the destruction of Caliban, which would focus on the long-awaited clash between Luther and his Fallen against Lionel Johnson and the Dark Angels. This duel marks the total unraveling of the Dark Angels' homeworld and kicks off their eternal hunt for their fallen brothers. Not only is it an emotional scene, but come on, we've been waiting for this duel for decades. And even better, more power scaling videos. I can't wait to do Luther or the Lion. Then there's the traitors fleeing into the Eye of Terror. As the loyalists tighten their grip, the traitor legions begin fracturing hard. The World Eaters, Emperor's Children, and the others start turning on each other in the chaos of the Scouring. This is where Karn earns his title, the Betrayer, specifically during the infamous battle of Skalthrax. I hope I said that right. This is a must-see storyline, raw, violent, and exactly what hungry World Eater fans have been dying to see. On the subject of the Traitor Legions, a specific dive into the Alpha Legion, the Battle of Eskandor, and what happened to Omegon would also be an awesome plotline to see. After that, we'll probably see Lorgar Ascension to Demonhood. While it's implied he's already been granted demonic power by the time he fights Korax, this series could finally show us how that transformation took place. Lorgar has been put on the back burner since the Siege of Terra, and this should be his big moment in the spotlight. Following that, we have the fall of the Night Lords. During their campaigns on the eastern fringe of the Imperium, the 8th Legion finally would collapse under the weight of attrition, isolation, and the death of their Primarch Conrad Kurz at the hands of the Imperial assassin, Emshin. With it, the Night Lord's Legion would officially shatter, and I hope we get to see a deeper dive into Kurz's final moments, the insanity he was experiencing, and hopefully some clarity on the Legion's scattered remnants. I would also love to see if Kurz's soul actually ended up in an Eldar Soul Stone, which would be a really cool twist and a way to tease Kurz's possible return in the 42nd millennium. Next up is the brewing conflict between Rabute Guilliman and Rogel Dorn over the Codex Astartes. Guilliman pushes to split the legions into smaller chapters for safety and control, while Dorn sees it as a complete betrayal. This is one of the most important political divides in the early Imperium post-heresy, and let's not ignore it, guys, the cover of Ashes of the Imperium straight up teases this exact showdown. Get ready for some fireworks. Then comes the Primarch's slow disappearance from the Imperium. As the galaxy burns, one by one the remaining loyalist Primarchs begin vanishing. It starts with Korax, but eventually they all go silent, leaving Dorn as the last one still active. The series might finally show us how and why each of them left, and what that meant for the Imperium. I would also like to see the traitor Primarch's disappearance and why they fucked off for 10,000 years. Also during this period, we're likely to see the rise of the Inquisition. As the full scale of chaos corruption becomes clear, the Imperium moves to protect itself from within. The Inquisition starts to form into the terrifying institution we know today, hunting heretics, rooting out traitors, and shaping Imperium policy in the shadows. Silly me, I almost forgot the rubric too, which will be Ahriman and his cabal attempting to cure the 1,000 sons of the flesh change, which, as we all know, goes horribly wrong. We will most likely see how they created it and what caused it to go wrong. Finally, we'll probably get a spotlight on the formation of new chapters. Guilliman's reforms don't just break up the old legions, they also birth entirely new ones. This is when we see the rise of fan favorites like the Black Templars, the Crimson Fists, and the Flesh Terrors, among many others. The galaxy is scarred, but rebuilding begins with new heroes ready to carry the torch. So now that we've broken down the biggest plot lines this series has to tackle, let's talk about what I'm actually hyped to see, and what's got me a little nervous. Because trust me, there's a lot riding on this book series. So what am I excited about? First off, Sevatar. I need freaking closure, guys. We know he's not walking around in 40K, which means his story has to end during the Scouring. Give me that final, brutal, tragic, poetic moment that defines the Night Lord's first captain. I want to send off worthy of the galaxy's most sarcastic murderous edgelord. Next up, Dorn. I want to see this man literally break. The stoic, unyielding fortress of a Primarch crumble under the weight of everything that's happened. His father's entombment, the cost of the heresy, the cracks forming in the Imperium, and the death of Sanguinius. I want that mirrored in the reactions of every Primarch. Let us see the emotional fallout, the anguish, the denial, the fury. Give me all of it. And then I want to see the Iron Cage. Dorn vs. Perturabo. The siege to end all sieges. This is a battle decades in the making. A battle between hatred and bitter brotherhood. It should be cinematic, violent, and incredibly tragic. I want it to be a philosophical war as much as a physical one. The ultimate sibling rivalry, written in blood and iron. Then, give me the rubric of Airmen. Don't just mention it, show it. In all its failure, all its desperation, all its horrifying consequences. I want Airmen unleashed, struggling against fate, and trying to save his legion while becoming the very thing he feared. I want the tragedy, I want the horror, and I want the moment he crosses the line to attempt to save the 1,000 Suns. I mean, guys, come on. Who doesn't love 1,000 Sun lore? I'm also really excited to see the Battle of Eskandor. Guilliman vs. Omegon. I know something went down there, and I don't want to see any more vague hints or shadowy implications. I hope we can finally see if Omegon truly did fight Guilliman and the ultimate fate of the twin Primarch. I'm also really excited to see Valdor and the Custodes after the events of the Emperor's entombment. They've just watched the Emperor pretty much die and get bolted to the Golden Throne. I'm pretty excited to see where their heads are at, where Valdor's head's at, after failing the Emperor. And I want to see him wrestle with that thought that he has failed the one man he's supposed to protect. Maybe we can even see some implications for the future of 40K with the King in Yellow, now that it's been revealed that Valdor is this figure of legend. There's just so much narrative meat on that golden bone. And finally, the Traitor Marines. I'm really excited to see them truly fleshed out. I want to see them realize they lost, Horus is dead, their dream is shattered, and I want to see the desperation and the breakdown that takes over. I hope we get to see a lot of self-loathing, a lot of betrayals, and maybe even some last-minute redemption arcs. I just want to see a lot of depth with the Traitor Marines, not just, rah, we're evil now. We've already done that so much throughout the Horus Heresy. I feel like the Traitor Marines really need to get a good spotlight, and the Scouring is the perfect moment for that. Now, on the flip side, what am I scared of? Let's start with the obvious. The way the Traitor Marines have been written so far. Look, throughout the Heresy and the Siege, the Traitors were supposed to be the most dangerous foe. They had the initiative, the drive, the sheer madness, and yet, they lost like idiots half the time. All too often, they were written like Saturday morning cartoon villains, fumbling over themselves while the loyalists got to be perfect. Please, please, Games Workshop. Please! No! Just write Traitor Marines with actual depth and competence. That's all I'm asking for. My next fear, pacing. I do not want this to be another Horus Heresy where we're 30 books deep and I still haven't hit the halfway point. Don't get me wrong, I love this universe, I love the slow burns, but I also love the story that goes somewhere. Please don't pad this out with a million unnecessary side plots. A perfect example is the end and the death. I love Dan Abnett, but I had whiplash from how many random threads were still getting pulled out during the end of the trilogy. John Grammaticus, come on. We're still doing this in the final act of the book? Really? And my final fear? A narrow focus. If this series becomes another Chaos vs Imperium and nothing else matters story, I'm gonna lose my freaking mind. The Eldar were absolutely involved in the Scouring, so were the Orcs, so were a lot of other Xenos factions. I want to see them involved, I want to see them tearing the Imperium apart, and I hope they're not just sidelined like they usually are. And don't even get me started on the Demon Primarchs. They're still active during the Scouring, still terrifying, and they deserve to be more than just background monsters while Gilliman and co. debate war philosophy again. I want this series to be wide, brutal, complex. I want everything, to be honest, but I'm bracing myself because I've been disappointed before. So in conclusion, the Scouring is finally getting its moment, and I'm cautiously optimistic. There's so much potential here to explore untouched parts of the setting, to finally give certain characters their dues, and to wrap up long-forgotten story arcs. But I'm also really nervous. We've been here before. We've seen how the Heresy ballooned into a never-ending parade of side plots and filler arcs. We've watched incredible characters get sidelined or butchered, and most of all, we've seen what happens when the lore leans too hard into Chaos and Imperium at the expense of everything else. So guys, please sacrifice a virgin for the Black Library. I'm really hoping they stick the landing. I hope they don't forget the Eldar or the Orcs or the shattered fragments of the galaxy still reeling from the siege. I really hope the Demon Primarchs actually do something for once, and I hope that this new era doesn't just rehash old mistakes, but build something fresh, brutal, and meaningful. Anyway, thanks for hanging out and talking Scouring with me. Let me know what you're most excited for or terrified for in the comments. Will this be a redemption arc for 30k storytelling, or are we in for another 50-book trauma spiral? Stay milked, guys. I'll see ya in the next video.